Welcome back into the Gate City Bank Frisco fan cam here. Evan Giddings alongside Steve Hallstrom. We are standing in the North Dakota State Bison end zone after they defeated the Eastern Washington Eagles by a final score 38-24 in the FCS National Championship game. Their 7th in 8 tries, and now they stand alone atop the mountain, the most wins in championship history among FCS programs, breaking a tie with Georgia Southern. This was a game here today, Steve. The Bison maybe came out a little bit sloppy, didn't have their best foot to begin the game, but in the second half they established themselves. They played North Dakota State football, they controlled the clock, and they came away with the win that I think everyone expected them to.
It may not have been a perfect game, but it was a perfect ending to a perfect season, 15-0. And yeah, they weren't particularly sharp. I've seen the defense look a lot better. Easton Stick was great today, wasn't flawless, a couple of interceptions, but overall you take a look at the positives versus the negatives. There's a lot more in the plus column for NDSU today.
Well, we're standing right now in the spot where Easton Stick basically put the nail in the coffin, a 46-yard touchdown run to end the game. And throughout the course of the game, the Bison, they controlled the clock like we talked about, nearly doubling Eastern Washington in terms of time of possession. Darius Shepard ended up taking away Most Outstanding Player of the Award honors, 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. This offense really stepped up in the second half, and Darius was a huge part of it.
He really was. It's been fun to see his progression. Last year, 1 touchdown. This year, he's been the big, deep threat for NDSU. And like you said, 125 yards on 5 catches with a couple of scores. And that play that he had today, there was a flurry of activity early in the third quarter, and Eastern Washington was back within 7. But then Easton Stick delivered maybe his best football of the day. It'll look pretty good on tape for those NFL coaches that are trying to decide if they want to take a look at him in the draft. Threw the deep ball about 50 yards, and Shepard caught it in stride, and ran it in for a score. And that put NDSU up 14. And just when you thought Eastern Washington was creeping back in, NDSU always seemed to find a way to pull away today.
And, of course, Darius was one of the members of the postgame press conference. Darius, along with Easton Stick, Levi Jordheim, and, of course, Chris Kleiman in the postgame press conference. Steve, what did you hear from the players first? Of course, lots of emotions going on after the game. Confetti was being thrown about. There's still some on the ground here as we speak. What did you hear from them? What type of emotions did you see from those 3 guys?
I thought they were reflective, certainly. Seniors who have played their last game, that's a tough spot to be in. You really don't want to come out and answer questions. You want to just kind of hang out with your buddies in the locker room. I think all of them credited everybody on the team and the tradition. I think it was Easton Stick who said this started back in the 60s when we got together yesterday with some of the former players, hearing them talk about the standard that was set way back when, that they wanted to live up to that, not just for the players that have maybe graduated they played with, but the guys that played 30, 40, 50 years ago too.
And head coach Chris Kleiman, of course, in his last game as a member of NDSU, talked about the fact that they were able to conclude this since the 2011 season 112-8, and that is something that just does not happen. Coach Kleiman said it himself. It's something out of movies. It's something out of a book. And what were you able to take away from the things that he said? It was the epitome of what Chris is as a head coach, as a man, and it was great to see him go out the way he did.
Yeah, he said, I got to be a senior today too. He knew that it was his last game coaching for NDSU and coaching these guys, and he said, I'm really excited for what comes next, but he said, I would not be here without those guys. And all the players were very complimentary of Chris and the way that he's embraced them, but he said, I wouldn't be where I'm at without those guys too. So I owe them more than they owe me, that's for sure.
And, of course, something that the players talked about and all that they owe is to the people here themselves. Nearly 90% of the stadium here around Toyota Stadium was packed with green and gold. We had an opportunity throughout the course of the week to talk to a bunch of fans, to interact with them through this Frisco fan cam. It was a fantastic experience. Throughout the course of the week, lots of highlights. For me personally, at the pep rally last night, getting a chance to hear President Dean Bresciani maybe step out of his suit a little bit, maybe express the way that he truly feels about this program, be a little bit of a fan and immerse himself with the rest of the crowd. What was your highlight from this week?
I think just reflecting on what the team has done and the program has done. I'm kind of a stats guy, so I like the numbers, and numbers don't tell you everything, but they tell you a few things. Only the 5th time in FCS history has a team gone undefeated and won the national championship. Of those 5 times, NDSU has 2 of them. And you said it earlier, Evan, the 8 losses going back through the last 8 years. Think about that. In the last 8 years, they have 8 losses and 7 national championships. Those numbers just don't even make sense to most of us who have seen statistics like once every 20 years, maybe you'll get to a championship game. These guys have sustained a standard of excellence I'm not sure that anybody really knows what to make of. Chris Kleiman said it's the greatest run in college football history. How are we going to disagree with them?
Well, absolutely, and I'm sure the fans are very appreciative of that as well. It's something that they can look forward to moving forward. As far as where this program has to go, obviously Matt Entz is going to be the next head coach of this program. Still remains to be seen what is going to happen to him and his coaching staff, but one thing remains certain and was evident throughout the course of this post-game and the game itself, that the tradition is going to stand, the culture is going to stand, and I think everyone expects here the winning to stand.
Well, Matt Entz was hired because he is Chris Kleiman 2.0. I think in a lot of ways, when you talk to Matt and you talk to Chris, you realize they're very much the same. And Matt has seen it being built, and he knows what it's going to take to keep this thing going. It'll be hard. You don't replace a Carson Wentz with an Easton Stick very often. And now what comes next? Well, Trey Lance is going to get a shot. The new transfer from Iowa State is going to obviously get a long look as well. They've continued to bring in very good recruiting classes, but you have to have a quarterback to make it happen. A lot was made today of the time of possession, 40 minutes and 5 seconds for NDSU, 1955 for Eastern Washington, more than 2-1. And people say, well, NDSU, they beat you by pounding you over and over again. But they didn't necessarily win the game with that today. If it wasn't for that 78-yard pass from Stick to Shepard, pulling them away again, that would have been a much more contested game as this goes along. So I think there are so many things that NDSU does well, but you have to have a quarterback. And how will they be under center next year with a couple of relative newcomers battling it out for that spot? It's going to be very fascinating to watch. NDSU will be a playoff team for a long time. Can they make it back to Frisco every year? Boy, that's going to be tough.
Well, one thing is for certain, they are 2019 FCS national champions, North Dakota State, 38-24 over Eastern Washington. And Steve, as we kind of put a bow on this week, it's been fantastic to be able to bring not only the game, the highlights, but all the interactions throughout the course of the week. Was there any final thoughts that you had on just the last 3 days being a part of this, coming down to Frisco?
Well, I'm going to talk about our team here for a second. I was standing in the back of a conference room watching the FCS Offensive Player of the Year award being handed out, and I'm watching it on my phone in the back of the room because we've got a camera that's streaming it live through our website, and I've got the website on my phone. And we're doing pretty good on setting a new bar at our place with the different things that we're doing. And when you look at how much time has been put in by our entire team down here and the work that everybody did, I'm just really proud of what we did. I think it's so fun to do something new, to go after something that this was kind of all a pipe dream for us, to be able to stream live video through our website and have all these videos on the website for people to see. If you can't make it to Frisco, you can maybe live vicariously through us. So for me, that's obviously the biggest thing. And then just being around so many people who love this team and this program, people driving down, people spending thousands of dollars to come down here, and people who've already got their tickets for next year. So the fan passion with NDSU football is amazing, and it sure is fun working conditions for us.
Oh, we sure are grateful for all of you tuning in. We appreciate your support as well as everything that you're doing for us. We try to bring the best product to you, and we are so grateful for that. That'll put a bow on this one, the final edition of your Frisco Fan Cam, brought to you by Gate City Bank. My name is Evan Giddings. This is Steve Hallstrom. Thank you so much for tuning in.